Hi, everybody. Welcome to the June Education, Communication, and Outreach Working Group meeting. Jared shared out an agenda for today. It's pretty simple, actually. We're going to have a wonderful presentation from MDOT on their zero emission vehicle infrastructure plan. So I can't wait to learn more about that. Then Jabari and I will be presenting the kind of official results for the Maryland Climate Teach-In, which was great this year. And then the majority of the meeting will be devoted to recommendations because it's that time of year. We actually already have some topics to discuss. And I think we've already even got some like considerations related to those topics. So let's jump right in. Jim, thank you so much for presenting for MDOT today. Feel free to share your screen. And I'm so curious to learn about the Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Plan. It's called ZVIP or ZVIP.
ZVIP, yes. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate it. Jabari approached me and wanted a transportation expert, and luckily I was able to find one. So we have with us Amanda Hinn. Amanda Hinn is our Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Program Manager in our Office of Environment and Sustainable Transportation. She's been with MDOT since October of 2023. Prior to that, she was with the Maryland Energy Administration for a couple of years, working in transportation and renewable energy. So last month, MDOT, the headquarters, we did indeed publish our Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Plan, which is kind of a multi-agency plan. And so Amanda is the expert on this, so she's got a presentation to give us about it, and I think she could also give us a little bit of an update on where we are with NEVI. So I'm going to turn it over to Amanda and sit back and enjoy her presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction, Jim. All right. Let's see if I can successfully do this. It's always an extra challenge with.
I can see it.
With Google and okay, cool. Perfect. So yeah, thanks everyone. Like Jim said, MDOT recently released the Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Plan. Amy, you're correct in calling it the ZVIP for short. So I'll just do a relatively high level overview of what the plan is and some of the outputs and next steps. So the ZVIP, what is it? So on May 18th, so almost a month ago, Maryland Department of Transportation published the state's first plan, really to outline a multi-agency strategy and more importantly, a set of actionable recommendations for the state to support a more convenient and connected public charging network in alignment with the state's growing light-duty electric vehicle population over the next 5 years from now until 2031. And we sort of identified that benchmark of 2031 since it aligns with, as I think this group is familiar, the first milestone under the Climate Solutions Now Act. So the ZVIP is something that MDOT has been wanting to do for a few years now, but it was also at the direction of Governor Westmore's executive order that was issued in 2024. And really, we see this plan as a way to address a lot of inquiries from our public and private partners for state guidance on deploying public charging, making sure that, as we're preparing for the growth of electric vehicles in the state, we have a solid strategy in place. So just a little bit more about what it is before I go into more some more details on some of the numbers that we found through it. The goal of the ZVIP is to provide some predictability to our local government partners, as well as private industry a key partner in getting EV adoption up and charging out, and our other stakeholders. And we want to sort of really show the state's long-term commitment for how we plan to advance vehicle electrification and the public charging network. So the plan does build upon a lot of stakeholder and public feedback that we've gathered over the past year for ZVIP outreach, but also a lot of the feedback that we've really gathered over the past like 5 years, working on vehicle electrification in the state. And sort of one of the more recent developments as we were planning for the ZVIP is factoring in a lot of the ongoing federal policy and market uncertainty that we're facing. So how the plan does that is we evaluate a range in projected public charging needs by 2031 using low, medium, and high scenarios for projected EV growth. And I'll get a little more into what that means in the next few slides. And we also provide an online interactive planning tool for our partners to use to cite new public charging infrastructure based on currently available data. So in general, the strategy and the plan, we'll be reviewing and amending it as needed every 3 years as more information becomes available. So a little bit more about how we are thinking about the uncertainty for vehicle electrification currently. So in close consultation with our climate change and mobile source partners at MDE, we developed a set of low, medium, and high scenarios for light duty EV adoption. So in general, what we are thinking about the high scenario is if there was full implementation of the Advanced Clean Cars 2 program with maximum flexibility and federal incentives. This is sort of what business as usual was prior to the current federal administration. And then we tried to identify a medium scenario to sort of reflect a little more of the best we can of where we're currently at in terms of the repeal of Advanced Clean Cars 2 and the expiration of a lot of federal incentives and funding. And then we tried to find a low boundary scenario. And what we landed on was sort of assuming 10% flat growth for EV sales. And we identified the 10% since this is consistent with the average sales trends that we've been seeing in Maryland over the previous 5 years. And so this does not include Advanced Clean Cars 2 implementation nor federal incentives. And so what does that mean in terms of these scenarios translated into EV population numbers? So on this slide, you'll see we began with end of 2025 EV registrations, just under 150,000. So that's a real number that we saw in Maryland. And then we took the 3 scenarios and using the MOVES 5 model from EPA, we projected 5 years of growth for light duty EVs. So you'll see, under the highest scenario, we are at under 712,000 total electric vehicles in 2031. That represents about 14% of the total vehicle population. And then moving downwards in the middle scenario, we have over 415,000, representing 8% of total vehicles. And then the low scenario, almost 315,000 at 6% of total vehicles. So you can see this really translates over the 5 years into a pretty wide range. But we thought it was important to really understand the range from the high and low, understanding the middle. The middle is somewhere where we're at, whether that actually reflects the medium scenario, precisely. This is sort of the best we could do to really understand really what we're looking at with the loss of federal incentives and regulations to support vehicle electrification. And then how does this now translate for the infrastructure side, understanding what the charging needs are in the states? So what we did then is using the EV population numbers in 2031 for each of the scenarios, we then used a model called EVI ProLite. It stands for Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Projection tool. And this is a tool that's developed by the Federal Department of Energy to try to understand the charging needs for publicly available fast charging as well as level 2. So this is a simplified version, and the plan itself, it breaks out each of these numbers into more detail. But I wanted to show you all, how the charging needs really change depending on how EV adoption progresses in the states. So you'll note sort of this little text caveat on the bottom left. The numbers you see on the screen are from EVI ProLite, like I noted. It doesn't take into account some of the feedback that we heard from an online survey we conducted, as well as some of the gap analysis that we performed for the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. So that's all to say that we are using these numbers as a starting point to really think about the public charging needs over the next 5 years. But, we are still actively working to really refine and understand the numbers to be able to share with our partners. So we, as we're looking at how we can best update the ZVIP, we will make sure to update these numbers as we see fit with getting more information. So that covered the plan's content related to future charging needs, but we wanted to also have a near-term opportunity for action for our partners in terms of deploying EV charging like now. So we developed the Maryland EV Charging Suitability Tool that was actually released in November of last year. So that was released prior to the release of the full ZVIP. And it uses data analysis based on what we currently have available, based on the 4 suitability categories that you see on the screen. So EV corridor charging, sort of what it sounds like. It's along the main corridors, the highways in the states. And we also have neighborhood and amenity charging. So we're thinking more so level 2 charging at your neighborhood grocery store, parks, libraries, sort of community centers like that, as well as high density residential charging. So thinking row homes, townhomes, a lot of urban areas with apartment buildings, but also a lot of non-urban areas where we're trying to capture Marylanders without dedicated home charging. And then workplace charging, we see that as a key component in building out, a really comprehensive ecosystem of charging to make sure every Maryland EV driver has equitable access to making sure that they are charged up. And so this is a screen grab of what the tool looks like on our website. And then I'll go a little more into detail on what is the analysis that's currently being shown through the tool. So the tool breaks up the state, those little colored dots that you're seeing, into hexagonal bins, or hex bins we call them, that represent 1 area mile. And there's a lot of underlying data that the team, in consultation with 10 other state agencies, has sort of identified and and weighted to calculate what we call suitability for where public charging may be best located. And that is reflected by sort of the color scale that you see in the bottom right corner, ranging from deepest teal to least suitable and deepest brown to most suitable. And this is the real idea of this tool is to show, you know, based on the state's priorities or where we think public charging is most needed. This will help inform our local partners, our private partners for where they invest in public charging. With the caveat that we understand that depending on, you know, whether you're a local government versus private industry, you might have different planning priorities. So we really see this as a guiding tool. It's not, you know, at the end of the day, the final word on where one should invest in public charging. And we prioritize making sort of the analysis transparent. And so I can drop a link in the chat after this, but we do have the methodology and the data inputs fully online on our website. And we welcome feedback as well for opportunities to improve the tool. And there's a feedback submission form that we have online. And so this tool is interactive. You can either enter a specific address if you have a site in mind, or you can just, you know, navigate to, let's say you live in Bel Air and see, you know, where in the Bel Air community may be best for public charging. So we will update this tool biannually to make sure it's reflecting the latest available data. And then lastly, I just wanted to share with the group, and I apologize, it was really hard to fit everything into one slide, but some of the key targets and actions as next steps identified in the ZVIP. So I mentioned we collaborated with 10 other state agencies, so including MDOT, that's 11 state agencies represented in an state interagency work group, as well as an online survey we conducted to the public, local businesses, and industry professionals to really get a lot of feedback into what are the best next steps to make sure we continue supporting vehicle electrification in Maryland and the public charging network. So the outputs are sort of summarized in these 4 main targets: increasing EV sales, expanding charger deployment and reliability, making sure that we are working well with our utilities and Public Service Commission to also, you know, protect Maryland's grid, and making sure we're really communicating with the public and our stakeholders about EV charging and the work that's happening, making sure that it's a two-way street, that we're also getting their feedback. So supporting those 4 targets are a number of recommendations. I won't read them all out loud, and there is more detail as well in the actual plan itself. But what's not really shown here in detail is, you know, we try to carefully think as a group of state agencies, you know, which state agency is best fit to sort of lead the initiative, understanding that in the world of vehicle electrification and public charging, there is not necessarily one state agency who is the sole responsible entity. So it's a teamwork, it's a multi-state agency approach, which is really at the heart of this plan, what we're trying to do. And we try to identify some intended outputs to really make sure that, you know, these recommendations we can measure, and sort of some near-term approximate timelines for implementing to hold us accountable and moving the ball forward. And I think that is a high-level overview of the ZVIP. I'll drop some links that I mentioned in the chat. But before I forget, I'll also mention, at Jim's suggestion, some of the NEVI updates that we have, which I did not prepare slides for. So through, let me make sure I pull up my notes on this. So through,
and actually, man, I'm going to beat you to the punch because I'm getting ready to put in the chat the charging suitability tool link, if that's okay.
Yes, perfect. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. Yes. Yeah, and I'll follow up with some of the other links, but I guess quickly for Maryland's National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, which this is my first time speaking to the group, so I don't know how much everyone knows about it. $63 million in federal formula dollars that the state of Maryland is getting to deploy public charging, primarily first along corridors for fast charging, and then later on community charging. So where we're at with that, we have round one projects, some currently open and some finishing up design and construction. We have 15 projects that we originally awarded under round one. That's investing $6.5 million, resulting in 102 new DC fast ports across the state. Currently, 9 of those 15 projects are open to the public. I'll also share this. We have a map that shows which projects are open versus in progress. And we expect 6 additional sites to open by fall of this year, which we're really excited for. For round 2, we announced those conditional awards in, I think, October of last year, which I think we're really proud to do pretty quickly after the NEVI program became unpaused. We announced $9.5 million in conditional awards for 12 projects, which will result in 48 new DC fast ports. And we're sort of finalizing those awards. We expect project completion by Q3 of 2028. Some projects may come along faster. It really depends on the contractor. And then lastly, we have an active request for proposals out for round 3 that will close on June 24th. So July will be a busy month for the team to do evaluations, and we hope to announce up to 9 conditional awards in early August, again for fast charging. For round 4, which, timing is TBD, we are planning to pivot to community charging, looking more at level 2 projects located not along highways and corridors in the state. Okay, that ends my spiel. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Jared?
you have a question?
Yeah, I was interested in your targets. If you could go back to that slide, it was target 4 that I want to ask about.
Yeah, I had a question about that too.
So, a recommendation that we're going to discuss later today that was prompted by a discussion at the Maryland Commission on Climate Change around, how can we have additional, advertising, signage, education, whatever around the EVs in the state. And, the potential recommendation is, directing MDOT to increase that level of advertising for EVs and to educate the public on that. So it seems to me like target 4 here covers, at least in part, that particular recommendation. So if you could just talk a little bit more about, what that public engagement looks like. And, I see you have increased EV road signage, which is exactly what we're talking about, what that is meant to eventually look like.
I'm glad you flagged that, Jared, because one thing I forgot to mention is when we're developing these recommendations, we did take into account recommendations that came out of the Advanced Clean Cars to Advanced Clean Trucks work group that happened last year, as well as some of, I think it's the mitigation working group recommendations. So I think you'll see, that's why you may see some redundancy there. I think I can highlight the road signage one, because this is where we really felt like it fell into MDOT's wheelhouse through our state highway administration. I think this is really something that in our lane that we can help improve upon. Looking at other states like California and Ohio, they have a pretty transparent, clear process for private industry to work with the equivalent of state highway departments in those states to install signage along roadways, so that, for current drivers who are not EV drivers, I think like seeing, in your daily commute that there's actually EV charging nearby that you might just not notice right away because it's like a turn or two away can really help I don't want to say correct, but like correct the public perception of what actually exists out there, knowing that people are not regularly always looking at like an EV charging map. And then, you know, some of the other action items really depend on our, you know, Maryland Energy Administration. I think they have done a lot of outreach through an organization or program called the Clean Cities Program. You know, they have a lot of valuable stakeholders working with private companies as well. And we also see a lot of value in working with the Maryland Department of Planning, since they really have those connections with the local planning departments for sort of more like on the ground understanding of different local communities' needs and sort of the best option and to create a lot of impact in terms of engagement and communications.
Thank you. Laura?
Yeah. Amanda, can you clarify for me on one of the earlier slides, you had the growth of EVs. Is that for state-owned vehicles, or I'm getting public? Could you clarify the public piece of that?
Good question. This is looking at the public fleet, so not state-owned fleets. Yeah.
So not state-owned fleets. Okay.
Yeah, this consumer, overall consumer, right, Amanda? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And so then I have a question, if you all, because I'm thinking about like access as well and communications. I know MDOT had worked on a GIS map about access to nature spaces. And I guess we would be able to overlay the power chargers, the charger onto that to see, so people could see access to nature, and there's actually several chargers nearby there if I were traveling.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the map to nature. Do you know, Jim?
That's not what it was called, but it did have the
Yeah.
access to nature on
Are
it.
you talking about EnviroScreen, Laura?
Possibly. This is a couple of years ago, and it comes out of the OLP, and Andrew, can't remember his name was, he's no longer with MDOT, but he was the one. There was somebody who would bring updates on this map from MDOT.
Oh, okay.
I'm not familiar with that, but I can look into that.
Yeah, and I can go back in my records and see if I can find.
We do use a lot of GIS mapping for a lot of projects and overlay different types of stuff. So that could very well be part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I in the meantime, we do maintain, you know, as Jim was saying, we have a lot of GIS maps. We do maintain a map of publicly available charging stations in Maryland. I think that link will bring you to the right place, and this is updated monthly. I would have to check if that information is down, like you're able to download it to overlay. But that's certainly an option if needed.
Yeah. But that's an interesting thought to put, you know, like things together that would be like, you know, like you say, like natural features that might be, you know, something that people would want to visit, or scenic byways or something like that we could overlay onto a map like that.
I will add real quick too, our neighborhood and amenity suitability tool does consider to the best of our ability some green spaces like parks, you know, thinking through making sure if there's not currently charging there, adding that as an amenity to, you know, to really encourage obviously access to the great resources here in Maryland, but also understanding like, you know, those are often destinations that Marylanders are currently already going to and may need future charging there.
Yeah. And Amy and Jabari, that could be, you know, if we're doing a communications plan, that could be part of it, is that access to nature and helping to communicate that. I have one more question, if that's okay. It's quick. or if there are other people that have questions.
Go ahead.
The other is I understand that some like parking lots are charging now for EV charging. Are these all public and free, or would they be local government controlled with fees like parking spots that you would have, if you were going to park your car, your non-electric car?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was actually on another call just talking about that. The short answer is it does include, it's not this map. I guess it's more so the map that I dropped a link to in the chat where it looks at currently available public charging stations. We pull it from a data set that is actually a federal data set. We could filter out to the best of people submitting, the entities submitting the stations. If they provide the information, we could filter out whether there's a fee to access, like the charging station at a parking lot. Currently, we don't have a very strong data set for that at the state level. We are hoping that with Department of Ag's EVSC registration program that we'll be able to have a more refined state level data set on public charging. So the short answer is it doesn't filter out ones that are completely free. Often also for public charging, we're seeing that there are fees to charge itself, separate from fees to get into the parking lot.
Elizabeth?
I'm adding into the chat. I'm adding into the chat, by the way. Amanda wrote a blog item for the blog that IPDOT has.
Okay, perfect.
And it includes a link to the actual ZEVIT.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so you can share that blog and help her get more hits.
Elizabeth, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Well, first of all, I want to say I love Laura's idea, 100% behind that. I'd like to see that across the state. Also across the state, I'm just wondering if this has ever been considered, and maybe you mentioned this, and I apologize. I'm not feeling well at all, so I might have missed it. But what about rest areas, rest stops along highways? Is that another option to put in electric charging?
Yeah, that's a great question, Elizabeth. Yes. So the EV corridor charging suitability tool does look at, in addition to a lot of the public fast charging that we're deploying along highways, some of which we already awarded NEVI dollars at travel centers, for instance. We've taken a look at additional gaps in corridor charging, and that takes into account places like rest stops as future opportunities.
Any other questions? I had a few, but so for the GIS tool that we're looking at and the suitability, does the suitability consider existing charging stations in those locations so that, it's not saying some area that is truly saturated with them is still super suitable?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it does take into account some of the like high hitting points across all the different 4 use cases and suitability tool. Existing charging takes into account existing EV registrations, as well as travel patterns travel data that we're able to get to really understand where people are moving around in the state.
Okay, awesome. And then my other question goes back to that target 4. So your top bullet was increased partnerships for consumer-focused communication. And I wanted to inquire about what kind of partnerships you have or are trying to engage in. And then also, like, does MDOT have a plan to use your own? I mean, you're one of the biggest state advertisers. Like, you have it in buses, you have it on bus stations, you have it in train cars. I mean, like the MARC and the light rail and all of that. You know, what is, like, how is that being leveraged? Even the like ITS signs, to encourage and explain the benefits of purchasing an EV.
Yeah, so I think for the partnerships recommendation here, we are looking primarily to Maryland Energy Administration, working with utilities, car dealerships, sort of some of those groups where we think they have opportunities to reach a wide variety of audiences who may be EV drivers or are current EV drivers. So also, you know, thinking about local universities and you know, just businesses in general. So I think that there are opportunities. MDOT itself currently, I don't know that we have a super strong partnership, but we do. It is something obviously that we want to expand upon. In terms of using some of this MDOT's assets to do comms, Jim, I don't know if you want to jump in a bit more. I know that our team at the Secretary's office has explored whether that is feasible, but I know that there are sort of restrictions around it.
Yeah, our greatest emphasis on outreach on things like, you know, like paid advertising and things like that has primarily and traditionally been centered around our highway safety office, which does a lot of the partnerships with things like the Orioles, and you see billboards and that type of thing. We're starting to get into that a little bit more at the modal level, and I think we're trying to, you know, identify funding sources for a lot of that. We do have conversations routinely about ways that we can leverage our many social media platforms across all of our modes, so that if, you know, for instance, State Highway Administration does something on X or Facebook, we can ask all of our partners, MTA, you know, MAA, MVA, and others to share that. And we also get very good cooperation from some of our, you know, partner agencies across the state, like the, you know, Prince George's County Department of Transportation and the Montgomery County Department of Transportation, so forth, to share some messaging on that front. Many of which are very interested in this subject matter. So there's a lot of leverage there that we can kind of try to utilize as well.
Okay, so when you're talking about like using your own assets, I guess when you're looking for funding just to create that, you know, whatever you're putting up. Is that, or because I mean, it's your own asset, you're not buying space, you're buying space from yourself.
Well, believe it or not, we sometimes do. We do. I mean, like, for instance, we just did a litter campaign, and part of our buy was on bus shelters, and we needed to purchase that space from MTA.
Okay.
So it is part of that.
Okay.
Jennifer?
Apologies that I was late to the meeting. I did get a chance to read the slides beforehand. However, I have a slightly off-topic question. As a climate commissioner, we have a responsibility to introduce potential ideas for legislations, regulations that might obviously reduce climate impacts. And one thing that occurred to me is that it is not yet legal to use self-driving cars in Maryland. And so if we were to require them, when they are legal, to be EVs, or to have a certain, you know, miles per gallon, that might be easier than trying to enact change on people who are used to, you know, driving cars. So I had some questions about autonomous vehicles, for example. Can they charge without a human, you know, plugging them in, is one question. And have you thought about, as we move to regulations that will enable autonomous cars, to encourage them to be either electric or hybrid vehicles?
Good question. So I will first say that I'm not an expert on autonomous cars, so take it all with a grain of salt. But from my understanding, I do not think that, at least with light, I'm not aware of cars currently, self-driving cars that could charge without support from like a charging manager, without a person. And then in terms of looking at opportunities for autonomous vehicles to be electric fleets, our team hasn't currently explored that much, but it is a good note that I'll keep in mind and bring back to the team as we look for opportunities, to further encourage electrification in the state.
So I put in the chat a link to the
Mhm.
most recent legislation that was proposed around electric cars. It did not pass partially because some unions that are in the driving space obviously don't like the idea of autonomous vehicles. But now the disability community is really weighing in because there's a lot of people with disabilities using paratransit that would like to have autonomous vehicles for safety and other reasons. Additionally, paratransit is often a very large bus that
Mhm.
might be diesel that is picking up one individual for a route, and it is putting a lot of pollution out there. And so by linking the disability community to this initiative to help support having clean, safer ways to move people with disabilities in the state to where they need to go. So I'd like to see if somebody from MDOT could get back to me on this. I don't know if either of you can look into this and get back to me on this, because I am considering proposing this as a recommendation for the Climate Commission.
Yeah, Jim, I can definitely bring that also
Okay.
to our team at TSO about it. I know I think Darren Lovas officially sits on at least the mitigation.
Yes, he
work.
does.
Yes, yeah. So I'm within Darren's team, so I can make sure to relay it back to him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jabari.
Yes. So this is a really quick question, I believe, Amanda. You mentioned the NEVI funds. What type of entities are those designated for? Is it municipalities? Do they go to college, universities, neighborhood associations?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the only actual restrictions for ineligible entities are utilities and federal agencies. So it's open to a wide variety of entities. What we're seeing more so, not just in Maryland, but across the country with other states implementing NEVI, is that the funds are typically going to private industry. They have the capital to provide the 20% match, though that is not to say that there isn't collaboration and coordination with some local entities, like local governments, to provide input on where these projects are located. But yeah, the way that the funding, the program is designed at the federal level, and also due to the way that Maryland state procurement works, we're seeing private entities being the recipients of the funds.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, were there any other questions for Amanda or Jim? All right. Well, I think we learned a lot. So thank you all both for that presentation. That was very eye-opening. There were some
Okay.
great things going on. So
Don't
Yeah, go ahead,
thank
Jim.
me. Don't thank me.
oh, okay. All right. Well,
I thank Amanda tremendously
Okay.
for jumping on and giving
absolutely.
that perspective. So yeah.
Yes.
Well, I thank Jim for thinking of me, and thanks to the group for having me. So
Absolutely. We're glad to have you.
Mutual Admiration Society.
Okay. Good enough. I understand. I totally get how that goes. And of course, Amanda, you're welcome to stay if you didn't know that already. Throughout the meetings, up to you. Totally your
I might have
choice.
to drop, but I will provide my email address before I go. So if there
Okay.
are more
Oh,
questions,
Thank you.
Okay,
Um,
appreciate that.
you
Yeah.
can send me. Thanks so much again.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, I guess we're ready to move on to the next part of the agenda, which looks like it's the teach-in. Is that right? One of our favorite topics, of course. So I guess, Jared, do you have like that presentation to put up?
I have it.
Yep.
Oh, you have an amendment. Okay.
Nope, Amy's going to present.
Amy
All
has
right. Amy's got the
Yeah.
slides.
I've
All
got
right.
it. Hold on. Where's my share screen? There we go. All right, can you see it? Great.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so
You want to put it in slideshow mode?
this is a PDF. So
Oh, okay.
I mean, I
can-
can view it as the full screen. If that's what you want. Hold on.
Up to you. I mean, I also have it pulled up and can full screen if that's easier.
That's fine. There you go.
Cool.
So we're going to talk about the Maryland Climate Teach-In for this year, which was a huge success, and we have lots to share. So we'll kind of introduce what it is for those of you that haven't been involved in it or haven't been super involved in it the way some of us have. Talk about how it works. Part of that is a proclamation of the month, as well as we've been pursuing legislation around the teach-in, so we'll explain that. We'll talk about the success of the 2026 program, including our sponsors and our partners, the prizes we gave out, and then we will talk about the actual physical in-person event that we participated in, which was at Poly. So for those of you that are relatively new or have not been involved in the teach-in, the teach-in is a month-long event in April, and it's basically a celebration of climate literacy. Basically, we encourage educators of all ages, right? So pre-K all the way through adults to basically, pledge that they're going to incorporate climate education into their learning plans for the month. That could be anything as wide ranging. It could be a discussion all the way to like a field trip to reading a book and doing a paper, or there were so many creative ideas. It's amazing. And the whole point here is to kind of make this communicate this to the next generation so that as they move into adulthood, but also adults currently, as we continue to face these challenges, we're educated about what this means, how this impacts our state, different aspects of climate change. So it's just kind of like to me, it's more of a grassroots effort to get education versus like a formalized communication campaign. So here's some pictures of some of the great events, and we have them kind of filtered throughout here. Obviously, a field trip here out on a boat down by the port and creating a really nice art piece by these youngsters. How it works. So we basically have a form online. We ask educators to register with us. There is no cost. They do not need to attend an event. And then during that month, they carry out whatever education activity they've proposed. And then at the end of the month, we send them a follow-up survey. We ask for them to submit information back to us, kind of basically them giving us the details, some feedback on their events, sharing photos. And then those who then respond receive a certificate of participation, as well as many of them qualify for some of our sponsored prizes. And we'll get into that in a second. As part of this effort, every year for the last, 4 years? 3 years? 3 years?
It's been 3.
3 years. Governor Moore has declared April as Maryland Climate Education Month, and we get this proclamation. We actually give it to the teacher that helps us organize that in-person event that we work with. So in this case, Polly received the proclamation. We have been trying for several years now to get legislation through the system for a bill to make that permanent. It has not succeeded for a variety of reasons. This year's reason was they basically didn't do any of these celebration days at all. They wiped them all out, except I think they gave us like a state something. It was
The megalodon is our state shark.
Steak shark. Okay, so that made it. So here's a little bit of information about that. Delegate Moreno introduced the bill. For the first time, the bill went through a completely different committee than it had in the past. Usually it went through Energy and Environment. This time it went to, it was like government
Yeah.
administration. Yeah. So Kim Coble, who is one of our co-chairs of the commission, and Delegate Moreno gave oral testimony. A lot of folks submitted written testimony. And again, no commemorative bills this year, except for our lovely Megalodon. So we need to evaluate whether we want to continue down this path, because we've done this several times, and we've hit, like I said, a variety of roadblocks. And we talk about that when we get to our recommendations. Here's some more pictures of some teach-ins that happen: gardening, litter.
Shout out to Tristan.
There's Tristan's clothing swap, which is amazing, like huge. So that's a great photo. So let's talk about the success this year, which was amazing. So as you can see, our trajectory has been great. 4 years ago, we started with 25 educators, and this year was 381, which is amazing. Huge increase again, which is great. And note that in 2025, that's when we switched from 1 week for the teach-in to the full month, which gave all of the educators a lot of flexibility, because there's a lot of spring break activity. There's a lot of standardized testing activity in April. So this gave them more flexibility to work this into their schedules, which was great. This is the breakdown of who participates. So, vast majority are public school systems. We do get a few colleges. I believe this percentage is lower this year. We did not get as many colleges this year. And then, we have some other groups. These are nonprofits or community organizations, private schools. We get quite a few private schools. We could do better here for sure. We could do better in colleges for sure. We get government agencies. We went up in private businesses. We probably more than doubled what we'd have previously. So that was great. And then you can kind of see the breakdown, the geography of how folks, and Prince George's County, always amazing, 140 educators. Some school districts maybe had 1 or 2, and this includes private schools as well, and local events. But note that Jared put a big, note up there that, we didn't have anybody from Allegheny. Last year, Frostburg participated. We didn't have them this year. We didn't have anybody from Caroline. We've had Caroline and Somerset and Talbot before. So we've got to do better with the Eastern Shore counties as well. More pictures. This is a tree planting, which is fabulous. And this is like an Earth Day event, which is amazing. And I guess another planting exercise. All right, so we had 3 wonderful financial sponsors this year for the teach-in as a whole. Thank you to Jennifer Misrahi once again. Her charitable fund donated $2,000 to the cause. EA Engineering and Science, where I work, donated $500. And our new sponsor this year, yay, was Constellation. Amazing, came in at $2,000 as well. So that money funded prizes that we could give out. And we're going to talk about them in a minute. On the right-hand side, these are organizations that partnered not just with the teach-in, but specifically helped the Poly event, right? So, there were folks that donated food, folks that there were guest speakers. So there was a lot going on there. It was really great. Also note, Attune has been a great sponsor and help to us over the years. And this year they donated 3 air monitors to be shared with educators. So very, very grateful for that product donation.
And just sorry to interrupt, but there were plenty of other people that aren't on that list that were exclusively for Poly that also supported. So, if you didn't see your name on the list and you were part of it, know that we also say thank you to you too.
Yes. So here's the prizes that because we had extra funds this year, was great. So this year we were able to give 2 field trips valued up to $1,000. We actually previously had that at 2,000. We brought it down to 1,000 because they didn't use 2,000 in the previous year, and it was a big field trip. So we felt like it would be better to reach out to more educators than, you know, have one educator get this huge sum of money they don't use. Last year we had 2 $500 projects. This year we're going to do 5 of them. That gives us the opportunity to get, you know, sponsor projects at 5 different organizations. And again, 3 of the Attune air quality monitors. And how we select the winners of these is, one, they have to identify themselves as eligible. For example, government agencies aren't eligible to accept these kinds of grants. And then so it's the people that fill out that follow-up survey. We kind of put them in a random name generator if they've said that they are interested and can accept the grant, and then we select them through this random name generator. And I also want to call out Mayo for their support, because they help us administer this. You know, the commission has no, you know, we're not an official business. We don't have a bank account. We can't administer grants. So Laura's organization graciously helps us with this. This is a big lift for her, and we are so grateful to it, honestly, because this is a really great way for us to provide resources for hands-on climate education directly to educators, and to give them funding. We always find that funding is the big thing. So, so thank you so much, Laura, and your whole team are amazing with this. So I had mentioned that each participant gets a certificate of completion. So this is what that looks like. It's just an example. And then the summit, and Jabari's going to step in and talk about the summit.
Yep. Thanks, Amy. So I guess I don't want to say culminate, but usually what we do is with the teach-in, we try to have like a celebratory event. And we started this 3 years ago. Our first event was at Annapolis High School, and that was based on the teacher of the year that was her school. And she was gracious enough to be our spokesperson. So let me back up a little bit. The first thing we wanted to try to do is have a spokesperson each year going forward for the teach-in event. And the last couple of years, our spokesperson, we normally go to the host school of that spokesperson. Last year was the Cecil County School of Technology. And then this year was at Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, which was Ms. Vicki Matthew was our spokesperson. So I guess the next slide probably has the agenda. And I'm going off the top of my head, you know, this has been a couple of months, so forgive me if I leave out some details, but it was a great experience. We did do like a walkthrough ahead of time to kind of get a feel of what the school, the campus is like and all that before we did the event. Ms. Matthew was incredible with her team, with her group of students getting everything together. So we started off with breakfast in the room. We had a kind of like a session in the larger auditorium they have there. Secretary McElwain was gracious enough to be there for most of the day. Actually, she was there from the beginning all the way up to almost about the very end. I think actually probably to the very end. So she spoke for a little while we had some other, I guess some of our other partnerships to kind of give a little bit of, you know, intro to the work that they did. Then we broke off to 4 different groups, and those groups pertained, one was for, by the way, we rotated these 4 groups during about an hour and a half period or so. We had aquaponics, and in one area, there was a demonstration of the weather monitoring station they had there on campus. We also were able to plant our own seeds. There was an area outdoors where, I don't remember all the seeds, but there's a parsley. Mostly, I think they were mostly like herb seeds, if I'm not mistaken. I did have them. I did not water mine enough, so that mine didn't work. But I do know how to plant stuff. It just didn't work for me. But we were able to kind of have our own little planters and use the soil and the seeds and take them with us. We learned about the process and all that there. And then there's another one with the there's a group there that does work with Arctic something.
It's Isomer.
It's called, yes, the Isomer program. Thank you.
Yep, there's a photo later on where you'll be able to see the acronym.
Okay. Thank you, because I don't remember what that acronym is for. And they do some incredible work, and they do this every year. I want to say in the summertime, actually. They work with another school in the Baltimore area, I think. And some of the work they do there is incredible. So we got a chance to learn about that. We actually were able to look in the microscopes and actually see some samples they were taken from some of the nearby bodies of water. So it was really hands-on, very interactive. It was great. From that, we actually walked across the street to Hillside Park where we had lunch. There were some table talks going on during the lunch session. The lunch consisted of sustainable foods. Amy and Jared, do y'all remember the name of the company that sponsored the foods? I don't remember that company. But okay. But anyway, they were gracious enough to have some sandwiches and things like that for us. And we actually ate outside. Ironically, it was actually one of the hottest days during that time of year, but we made it work. And that was great. And then we actually had a tree planting by at the school at Hillside Park, I should say. Secretary McElwain was a big part of that. I think she's in some of those pictures. And then we wrapped up with some additional workshops. We had one on green careers. There's a question and answer panel on that. There was one on nature journaling and sketching. We had another one on what composting looks like in your dining facility. And then there was even one on the impact of AI on the environment in Baltimore. So it was a full day of a mixture of learning in group talks, as well as some interactive sessions, hearing from some great speakers and lunch and all that. And we closed out the end of the day at 1:50. So it was a great day. And these are some of the pictures from the event that day. And this is something that we do want to continue. Now, this year, we called it the summit. In the past, we called it more so the climate teaching kickoff because it was more so at the beginning of the month. So we're kind of kicking off the month of April. This year, it was in the middle of the month. So we just called it the climate teaching summit, basically. So in a nutshell, that was it. I know many of you all were there. So thank you for being there, a part of this. And we would like to continue. It's getting bigger and bigger, it seems, every year. It was some great feedback. I think the students enjoyed it. I mean, I think our partners enjoyed it. I certainly did as well. And like I said, we'll plan to continue this again next year and the years following. Anything else to add?
I just want to say that I was so impressed with those kids. Like, they were amazing. They were passionate. I mean, just their maturity, honestly, with leading us through this, and basically they led all these exercises. It wasn't educators. It was fabulous, and they were so proud of the work that they were doing, and so invested in it. It was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal experience.
I agree, and everything was coordinated really well, and the hospitality from the students was also amazing. So I totally agree. I was very impressed. Any other additional comments for people that were there? Anything you want to add on?
Or questions?
Yep. I know Amy covered a lot too. Any questions about her segment as well? Tristan.
There we go. That's the button I was looking for. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Yeah, really great summary of the summit and the teach-in all together. I was hoping you could remind me, because Amy mentioned that our champion teachers have been like teacher of the year in the past. How did we find Vicky? I don't remember how we got connected with her.
She was just recommended, and we reached out, and she was interested.
Mm-hmm.
I think Laura recommended her.
I'm not sure, but I also think we connected with her the year before.
We
did.
And so we were able to, to keep her engaged and have her do that. I mean, I do think that there are, we have been at 3 high schools.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. And we can continue. There's a lot of good schools in Maryland that we could go to and learn from, and different parts of the state. But I think we've tended to stick in central part of the state as well. So it might be a
County was little far
conversation.
out.
Sorry.
I said last year was Cecil County.
True. Up 95. So that's true.
You could throw a brick,
But
a
to that
stone to
point-
Delaware. And that's how close we were.
Yeah,
Well,
it
and
was. We were right
also,
against the border.
I mean, we didn't have as many people join us because of that.
Yeah.
There's more
It was
challenges.
But,
good
like-
for that district, though, to have
It
that
was.
attention. Yeah.
Yeah, but to that point about how we got connected with Vicky, it was a recommendation. So we need someone to do the job for next year, and the sooner we can approach that person, the better.
Yep.
You know, if you have recommendations around rock stars like Vicky or like Brittany last year that we can be connected to, please let us know so that we can do that outreach.
Yes.
Yeah, and we can look at the county teachers of the year again. That was a great place to look for. And I think we ought to look at the participation in the teaching over the last couple of years.
Hmm.
We might have our own rock star.
True.
So
I mean, it might be worth, since Prince George's County has such high participation,
Right.
it might be worth looking there just to kind of give them a kudos, you know. And also because they have a climate plan. Anyway.
Anisha Tung. Okay.
Good point. Hmm.
Elizabeth.
Hi, yeah. So along those lines, I would recommend Anisha. I worked with Anisha. She was the lead teacher as part of my program last school year. PG County would be a phenomenal choice, in my opinion. But maybe, just going to go out on a limb here, it's going to feel a little bit counterintuitive. What about those counties that don't have representation in the climate teach-in? I wonder if there's a sleeper out there. You know, I wonder if there's a way for the commission to reach out to those counties and kind of have a win-win. In other words, we find somebody who has a lot of potential, and you also start recruiting registrants from the counties that are less participatory or less represented. Just something to think about. It would be a strategy that I'd be willing to work on.
right.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it comes down to the individual teacher and the facilities that they have. So if there's someone, you know, in those counties that's doing great work and has the space to support it, we'd certainly consider them.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we have a variety of methods where we reach out to LEAs, to teachers, instructors, using different agencies, different organizations. So we're reaching them. We're pretty sure we're reaching all the counties at some point, in some way, but we're just not necessarily getting the responses from those counties. But Elizabeth, you know, we could definitely use more volunteers to help with certain efforts. So, you know, in looking at planning, which we'll probably start in a few months, actually, then that would be great if you could possibly assist with trying to get some more from those counties. And Amy, I think last year we probably did get some of those counties, didn't we? Do you remember?
We did have those counties last year.
Okay.
So we need to take a look at that this year and figure out why and how, you know, basically do a little analysis on the data. That might be something good to do over the summer. I also think that I will say that we do a lot better when we target somebody or a few people and go after them. Literally, like putting a general call out for interest, we have not ever really gotten. I mean, we've even put general calls out just for the counties to nominate someone to be coordinator with us.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been a struggle.
I think that, you know, our most success has been when we've had somebody like Donald, who is, you know, maybe even at the administrative level, you know, he's the science supervisor for Prince George's County. And I think that, you know, looking to next year, we might want to really hone in on getting upstream connections so that, you know, we're not having to approach every teacher individually, and we can try to use them as hubs in the same way that we use Donald.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that like we've usually done it by like email, and I feel like we need to start scheduling calls with these people.
Yeah, agreed.
So
On that note, I know that the climate change team at MDE just met with Michael Page, Sr., who is the Zach Carey's replacement at MSDE as the science director. And
Right.
apparently that was a super positive interaction. I just sent him an email asking to be connected with him as well. So, you know, stay tuned for that, Amy Jabari.
Okay.
Right.
Kristen, did you have something else you wanted to add?
I did. I am actually in the car right now on my way home from the Maryland state level Envirothon competition. And there were 16 counties from across the state. And I can tell you which county won. I don't know which school they're representing, but I thought it would be cool to like just carry on with that energy. But Montgomery County will be going on to
Okay.
the national level to represent the state of Maryland.
That's excellent. Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So for those who are part of the planning committee, I guess you'll be hearing from us later in the summer, basically.
Yeah, and thank you all. I
Yeah.
just want to say thank you all. It is not a light lift.
Mm-mm.
The teaching is not a light lift, and we are very grateful for any and all assistance from, oh my God, like Elizabeth did amazing, Rosemary did amazing, Jody sent out a press release. Like so many people play a big part in getting this done, and
Yes.
we are so grateful. And helped us so much with social. Rosemary donated like basically we gave aquarium passes, backstage passes to Vicky to say thank you, because it's a huge lift for her too.
Mhm.
So to everybody that is part of the event, thank you all.
Yes.
Now, I know that we only have about, I think, 17 minutes left in the meeting, but we still have recommendations.
Well,
to
you know
talk
what?
about.
That actually might be a good segue to the recommendations. Since,
Let's go to the
we gotta mention that.
recommendations.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I'll
Sorry.
share my screen.
Okay. So there's been there's some recommendations that have come over to us from the mitigation working group. There was a discussion on the seal of climate literacy. We've talked about, and we have some feedback on the possibility of getting agencies more involved in the teach-in. So let's start with the seal. We can only submit, just so you know, there is a process to this. We have a form we have to fill out. It's very structured. And we, as a committee, as a working group, may only submit 3 recommendations. Oh, we get 4? Oh, okay,
Yep.
4. 4 recommendations to the report. These are the 4 that have been talked about, but we can open the floor up to other recommendations if need be. And we still have a couple meetings left to get through these and vote. So the question I put out there is, do we want to handle them like one at a time and just focus on the seal of literacy, let folks submit any new ones, and then really just spend the next meeting focused on that? Or do we want
I
to
might suggest, Amy, that we talk about the seal, because I know that Anne has proposed
have a
some
presentation?
slides.
So let's talk about that. Yeah.
So, Anne, I'm going to switch over to your slides now.
Fabulous.
So
Okay,
just a reminder to folks, especially if you're newer, that we had a presentation at the last meeting on the seal of climate literacy, and those slides should be available if you don't have them. And of course, there's a video of that presentation that you can go back and rewatch.
great, great. Well, thank you for making space to learn about the Youth Climate Institute. Today is my first official meeting with Eco Group, so I'm delighted to be here. My name is Ann Strosick. I just retired in September after teaching in Howard County as an environmental educator for 25 years. And now I'm the director of engagement for the Youth Climate Institute. I'm going to give you the reason I'm here today is I just want to create an awareness for some existing structures and frameworks that already exist in the climate space in the state of Maryland. If we could go to the next slide, please. So back during the shutdown, students came to me and they said, Mrs. Strosick, what are we going to do now that we're stuck in our bedrooms? And I said, you know what? I'm working on something. And what we did is we worked on it all summer long. And that fall of 2020, keep in mind that is 6 years ago, almost 7, that we launched the Youth Climate Institute. We are the only national certification program that certifies high school students as climate ambassadors. We cover topics such as the hard sciences of climate change, impacts, solutions, stewardship. We touch on environmental justice, mental health connected to climate change. You name it, we're doing it. And we offer this as a flexible way of implementation. So it's similar to, if you recall from high school, the National Honor Society. It is extracurricular after school. We have chapters in public schools, private schools, home schools, charter groups, nature centers, and community centers as well. Okay, no problem, Amy. I can introduce myself. All good. Okay.
I just feel horrible. I was like, we've been working together so much. I didn't realize this was your first official meeting.
It's my first official, and I'm delighted to be here. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Of course, of course. Okay, next slide, please. So what makes this program unique? Well, one, I mentioned that it is the only national certification that certifies high school students as ambassadors, recognizing their efforts as an activist, a conservationist. And, there's no other program in high school that does this. So we offer an immense amount of support, not only for students, but also for teachers. And the way that it's implemented is flexible in nature. The special sauce is when students get to the action project piece, they are able to literally serve their community and weave in those really rich partnerships, which level up their climate action work. Next slide, please. So where are we? As I said, in 2020, we started in Howard County. This is a homegrown Maryland program. It started in Howard County in response to students asking for this type of program, which at the time, there was nothing like this, okay? Due to interest, we have now expanded to 12 states. Just last week, we added Puerto Rico, which is a bit exciting in our small world. Last week, we also added a hub in Colorado, which means a hub is a resource center for chapters in Colorado. And we are so far ahead today of where we were a year ago. So in the state of Maryland, we are currently in 10 jurisdictions. I'm pretty sure that number will increase by September 1st. So we are absolutely thrilled with the growth. As a matter of fact, we have grown 75% in just 1 year. So next slide, please. Just to give you a quick visual on where we are. Of course, we're Maryland centric, but we're also in several areas across the country. Next slide, please. I mentioned that we are already starting to onboard chapters for the fall. So this is super exciting. Next slide, please. So what does it take to become a certified climate ambassador? We offer a couple tracks, but the first track is for all students who are interested. There are three main tenets that students need to work through to become ambassadors. And the first one is they need to provide 5 hours of service to the earth. The chapter leader decides what is appropriate for their local context. When I ran my chapters, I said, you can clean up streams with me, you can pick up trash, you can plant trees, you can remove invasives, you can plant natives, and you can also table to educate and create awareness. Those hours can be double dipped with Science National Honor Society, regular Honor Society, or any other way. So our goal is not to be punitive and saying you have to have our 5 little hours, but really to encourage kids to double dip. The second thing is we offer each fall a series of live workshops. The workshops are hosted by professors, grad assistants, sometimes high school students who've done the research, and also industry experts. We run 5, and the first 3, the topics are always the same. However, the presenters are different each year, and I'll talk about those in a moment. The last thing students will do to earn this type of certification is to participate in a collective climate action project. So once students do all these 3 things, they are then, they will receive a lapel pin that says Certified Climate Ambassador. They will also receive that same image as a digital badge. And so at this point, students decide, well, am I done? Or do I want more? And because students asked for it, we created a second track. So they can choose to do a capstone project. Capstone, we allow them to work in smaller groups of 2 to 3 students to continue to practice the soft skills especially since COVID. We know as educators, they still need that type of work. And I'll talk about what those projects could look like in a couple slides. But once they finish their second year, they become a certified climate ambassador with honors. Ooh, they love that title. And if you know high school students, you're going to love this. Not only do they receive a second lapel pin and digital badge, but also, excuse me, compostable graduation cords, which are handmade by our volunteers. They're made out of sugar fiber. So, like, I'm not going to lie. Honestly, it's the cords sometimes that you dangle in front of them. They're like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so that's super exciting. We also offer a third track for second year students. Let's say they're really, really busy, but they still want to keep their toes into this level of work. We offer an alumni network. And on the Rosemary, I love it. Yes, the cords. The alumni network is a network where we post job opportunities for students across the nation, internships and volunteer opportunities as well, and even scholarships that are available. So, okay, next slide, please. Okay, so you're probably asking, well, Anne's talking about live workshops. What are they exactly? So as I mentioned, the first three, the topics are always the same: climate science, climate impacts, and climate solutions. The last two topics are decided from the ambassadors from the year before. So this fall, we ran two that were very well received. One was climate justice and water quality, and then climate anxiety and mental health. I'm not sure what the topics are going to be for this fall. So I'm actually really excited to see what they're going to be. A couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, our students asked for young and diverse speakers. So that's why the speakers are always different. Also, the science changes. And we want to make sure that we are up to date in the science as well as our students. Next slide. So here are some examples of projects. Projects can certainly be intersectional. As I mentioned, there's the traditional but highly awesome boots on the ground project, tree plantings and removing invasives and stream cleanups. But a lot of, often overlooked projects are educational in nature. So we've had students work on coming to summer camp and teaching lessons to younger students. We've had capstone students go into the classroom to teach students in Baltimore City about the impacts of urban heat islands and how to prepare. And of course, I know I saw a fast fashion photo earlier, which I love to see. Fast fashion is one of the top 3 hot topics for high school students. Okay, next slide. Just a quick example of some of the capstone projects that have been worked on lately. You'll see, again, boots on the ground work, education, working with elected officials to get green legislation passed, intersectional art contest, and tremendous amount of work with food waste and food-friendly diets. Okay, next slide. We also provide opportunities for students across the nation to engage with one another, which they really love this. So we provide a youth leadership council where we have a member from each chapter join quarterly meetings so that they can drive the decision and the forward momentum of the Youth Climate Institute. We offer an opportunity for students to come together before they begin their collective climate action project to receive peer-to-peer feedback and peer-to-adult feedback. And then we have an awesome team member who runs a really rich climate careers program in the wintertime. Next slide. We've built and continue to build a really rich resource library. And so if a teacher is like, well, where I live, we're not really interested in water quality. I mean, said no one ever, but it could be they want to pick up something about saltwater intrusion if they're on the Eastern Shore, or about air quality and the impact of fire pollution. That Elizabeth Spike has probably given us that content. So you can see we really work hard in keeping things fresh and updated and relevant for teachers across the nation. Next slide. We also offer, like Laura's Green Schools, we offer a special sustainable banner for nature centers and schools that are involved with this program. So they come at a 1-year note, a 5-year note, and a 10-year note, or 11-year. So these make for great photos, but it's just another way to not only lift up the work of the students, but the work of the school and their teams. Okay, next slide. New this year, we have leader awards that are national awards. So one of our awesome ambassadors from Ohio, Hannah Rosenfeld, who is, you'll see her name in lights coming up soon after she graduates college. She is phenomenal. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Anisha Tong received our first national chapter leader award. So this is so exciting to have the opportunity to lift up their work. And last July, we had a surprise supporter, Billie Eilish. I don't know, maybe give me a heart if you've heard of Billie Eilish before. So Billie Eilish, yay, okay. She found us, and her mother is a climate activist, and she made a donation that really helped to, oh, I love all the hearts. It's making me so happy. That really helped to push our forward momentum, because once the kids heard that Billie was on their side, man, we've just opening chapters left and right. So thank you, Billie. Okay, next slide. So I'm here today because I do want to talk about how the Seal of Literacy overlaps with YCI. Both programs do support capstone projects. Both programs do support and recognize the work of the student through badges, and we do badges and graduation cords. And it is a way to honor student skills, leadership, and experience. So we've got overlap there. I do want to close with some deep thoughts about this connection. You know, being part of this Maryland culture, we are the leader in some ways across the whole nation in environmental education. We're the first state to acquire the environmental literacy standards years ago. We have today in this room an incredible network of nonprofits, for-profit, government entities that work so beautifully together. I've only ever seen work like this done in another state, which is Michigan, with the same type, the same heavy level of collaboration. And I would surmise that it is due to that we are anchored by the Chesapeake Bay, and they have the Great Lakes, which creates this very unique and very special opportunity. The Outdoor Learning Network was convened by the governor and co-led by secretaries of DNR and MSDE. So we're in it. We're doing the work right now. I will say, as you know, I do work with school systems and teachers and directors across the United States. And from what I understand, people, you know, there's been some discussion of, okay, we're going to do the seal, but they don't know how to do it. And so folks are scrambling to figure out, okay, well, which courses do I check the box to get the seal? And how do I do this? And so we actually have had a school system in Colorado that has been to several of our presentations, and they said, we want to work with you to elevate this work in Colorado because we like that you have the hard science. They need the hard science. So I wanted to put that out there. So I just want to raise a question mark. If we recommend this, are we assured that we have, you know, are we on board with this, knowing that it's going to be challenging possibly to administer? And then I just want to note clearly that YCI has 6 years, has grown rich supports, rich programming features. We've got the infrastructure, we've got the relationships, and we are in 10 jurisdictions in Maryland, 12 states. We just brought on Puerto Rico. We offer teacher PD. We offer national PD. We offer live workshops. So I just want to make sure that we're aware of all that is currently happening in the richness of the state of Maryland.
Well, if you don't mind, can I start off? And that was an incredible presentation because I've heard of YCI, but I had no idea that all this was going on. So this sounds like a very, I would say, well-established and well-organized program. And you all doing some incredible things. And I love the fact that it started here in Maryland. and I know we're out of time, so I'm going to try to make these questions really quick. So since Maryland is the home base state of this initiative, is there something that you think we could translate this into a more of a statewide initiative or recommendation? Because I see that states all over the country and different districts all over the country have this. Do you see that this could be translated to something that we can do at the state level? If not, that's fine. But I kind of want to know what your thought was about that.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, like we've got everything turnkey, and I know Karen is here, like kind of with me in solidarity. Like we've worked really hard to make this serving the students, because that's really what we're here. Yes, I would love to see it go statewide. You know, we find ourselves elbowing in because teachers have so much going on. And if it was at a state level, it'd be so much easier. Mhm.
So what would that look like? I mean, as far as like a certification on the diplomas or something like that, or is that something that's already done?
So YCI does not have a seal on a diploma.
Okay.
I know like Virginia, and Elizabeth, you can speak to this better than I can, has, I believe, an environmental seal. So we had talked about early when we started to scale up, wow, we would love to have a YCI seal on the diploma.
Mhm. Okay.
Mhm.
So I have a quick question. Talking about it at the state level. So I guess I have a couple questions. One, like, how are you currently marketing this? Is it just kind of word of mouth, or are you like actively like reaching out to specific educators? Or it sounds like it's at the school level, not at the LEA level right now.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes. So I'm going to be honest with you. We do it all. We go to conferences. I've already talked to Michael Page, Meg, who's on the call. We talked to Michael Page a few weeks ago, asking for ways to get into the Eastern Shore and to lift up their work and their efforts, which there's so many beautiful things going on there. Yeah, sometimes it's just teachers, Amy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is like, it's a nature center that may not be offering secondary programming, and we can kind of slide in, and that's a beautiful relationship, and then they can help us to reach other local teachers. But there's no one easy fit formula for all the different regions, so we are trying multiple avenues to get in.
Yeah. And then my second question is, you know, so for kids, this is a great badge. Yeah, they love the cords, but do any colleges recognize this, especially those that are really focused on ecosystems and climate modeling and things like that? And if not, are you thinking about that? Because I do think that could be a driving factor for kids trying to get in college.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we are always thinking about that. It's just, I don't really have that in to measure that. I will say that two things. One is a lot of our students end up writing about their experience as a youth leader for their college essays, which is super cool. It is on their resume. The second thing is just because we've got this YCI in the state of Maryland, 2 years ago, the First Lady reached out to us and says, hey, do you have some students that would like to walk with me on National Unplug Day? So she's recognizing it. You know, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of really cool things that have happened for students just by being involved with this program.
Right.
If you don't mind, and I want to follow up on what Amy was saying, because actually Amy had a great question about, you know, the colleges, but do you all partner with any? And I have a second question too. Okay, you do.
Yeah, so we partner in several ways. One, with our fall workshops. So we have speakers from University of Maryland. I just ran a really exciting professional development in Howard County with University of Maryland and NASA on climate intervention. And you're going to see that topic again. It was excellent. Rutgers University in New Jersey, University of Alabama University of Alabama Black Belt STEM Institute. So yeah, we're trying. Yeah, we're making those connections.
Okay. I had one last question for me, and then I'm done. You mentioned climate careers in the presentation, which is a huge thing. We really need to focus on that a lot at the state level.
Yes.
And it's really important at the high school level as well as the collegiate level. Now, outside of that, though, are there employment or internships available, or is this really like volunteer based? Is it strictly volunteer? I mean, I'm not talking about like for the students, of course. I'm talking about for those that may be working with the Youth Climate Institute. Is that a volunteer based thing, or is this, employment internships available for maybe college students or those out of high school?
Yeah. So I'm really glad you asked that because currently I have a lovely young lady who is a sophomore at University of Colorado in Colorado Springs. She went to Wild Lake High School in Howard County. She did YCI for 3 years. She did 2 capstones,
Wow.
and she's interning with us 40 hours a week this summer.
Great.
Mhm.
Great.
Yeah,
Very good.
it's incredible. But to kind of morph my answer to a different question, maybe,
Mhm.
in our alumni network, we do post like other organizations, internships, volunteer, just to we are in the process, as Meg Boyd would say, of growing people.
Right.
And so to provide, it doesn't have to be from us, but to provide that richness for them.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's
I
excellent.
love it.
Mhm.
Can I ask a clarifying question to ECO?
Yeah.
And that's wonderful, and it's wonderful to get an update on where the program is and what's going on. My question has to do with the recommendations. At what stage in the timeline are we in terms of recommendations? And are we collecting them? You have a small list there. Is it something that at the next ECO meeting, I feel like sometimes we've actually had like big discussions on the recommendations and what's going forward and how we're going to do it. And what I'm wondering is this meeting like setting up something? We've heard, did somebody else do a presentation that would have prompted a recommendation for a seal of climate literacy? So I'm just kind of wondering where we are in the whole recommendation process, not just for the seal, but for everything that we would be recommending, those 4 different recommendations, and
If I
how we
may.
would vote on it or discuss it or whatever.
Yeah, so the recommendations are due to the Maryland Commission on Climate Change on September 1st. So that means that we have 2 more meetings where we have time to, decide what recommendations that this committee wants to put forward. It's an open table. If you're a member of the working group, you can submit a recommendation for consideration. So I have this list that I shared my screen earlier, right before we saw Ann's presentation. I'll share out that list at the end of this meeting. That way everyone knows what we've talked about. And to answer your previous question about the seal of climate literacy, yes, there was a presentation by Earth Day last meeting where they came and talked to us about the seal, and Anna asked for some time to talk about YCI today. So we'll continue these discussions in the next meeting. So just to make sure that you all have the dates here, that's going to be on July 16th and August 20th that we'll have those conversations. And by the August 20th meeting, at the end of that, we'll have to vote on which recommendations the committee wants to put forward.
Yeah, and in previous years, if we're still not quite ready to vote at them, we're running out of time or whatever, or there's some last minute things, we can vote online too. We've done that before. Works just fine. The next week and still get them in for September. So we're okay. We've done it. We can do it again.
Mhm.
But next meeting, we basically need to spend on the recommendations.
Yeah. So
I
that's
just-
what
I
I was
just
gonna. Oh,
wasn't
go ahead.
aware that we were at that stage, so I was a little surprised to see a formal list of recommendations that we were actually I see it as an opportunity to get information to make a decision to decide whether that would be a recommendation we would do.
Yeah, well, the
Yes, the
timing
recommendations on
comes
that list are
so-
not final.
Right, exactly. So
Right.
the
Okay.
next
Thank
meeting,
you.
technically, our eco meetings are every other month. So really, supposed after this meeting, that our next meeting is really scheduled for August. But the July 16th meeting is more of a special meeting to specifically discuss the recommendations.
Great.
And our August meeting will probably be still tying it up and discussing recommendations there too. But that's more of the general eco meeting, if that makes any sense.
Thank you very much
So
for that.
hopefully, like next time, we'll really zone in and kind of pick the 4 topics, talk about some of the challenges, and then the August meeting, we're really wordsmithing.
Right.
at that
So could recommendations be added to that list?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Super. Thanks. Thank you.
This
And that's
is
the
the
thing,
time
a
to
lot-
submit
Shoot me an
them.
email and I'll add it to the list and make sure that Amy and Jabari are also
I did.
CC'd.
But I'll formalize it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Karen?
Karen.
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Karen Mullen. I work for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, but I am co-chair of an outdoor learning partnership working group, and that is the one focused on environmental and climate literacy. And I was wondering if maybe I could email the whole group here a little bit of a background about what the recommendations that we were talking about as far as building climate literacy in Maryland, and some of the things that we're working on, and how these things kind of intersect and maybe support each other, just to make sure that we're all lifting each other up and elevating climate literacy in Maryland. And I don't know if it
Aaron,
would
if
be
you send that to me,
Yeah.
I just put the email in the chat. I'll distribute that to the group.
okay.
Well, and
That's
do we have a presentation next time? It might be great just
We do.
to have Karen. Oh, we do? Okay.
But that's for the August meeting though.
Oh, so for maybe July, it would be great to have Karen just give us a little, like, just talk us through them after they're shared.
okay.
That
sounds
would be
Yeah,
amazing,
that'd be
if
great.
you're available.
Mhm.
That would be wonderful, because I think that could inform that discussion greatly.
That's
And
Laura?
I would just add, Karen, not to diminish anything that you've said, but we're working really hard, and the state have been, on the environmental literacy, COMAR and all that's involved there. And so I think, and I've said this at the OLP as well, but really important to look at climate literacy and environmental literacy together and how they can support the one and the other, because we have a COMAR, which is a regulation for environmental literacy.
absolutely.
And I think that connection between this committee and OLP is one that we could do a better job of keeping healthy, because I think that there's a lot of overlap between the work that these groups are doing, and I don't think that either of us are truly aware of what the others got going on, even though we do have significant overlap in some of our membership. Like, that Tristan sits on both at least. So maybe that should become a regular element of our meetings. I know it had been in the past, is to have an OLP report out.
Yeah,
And if Michael Page does become active in this, then he is one of the lead people on the OLP as well. So that would be helpful.
great.
Meg, was there a comment that you wanted to make, or is just a question?
Yeah, I mean, I can make a quick comment, or I could also come to the July meeting if that's better timing wise. But, one of my concerns, based on, as Ann said, a lot of the feedback we receive from other jurisdictions and other states, is that the climate, a seal on a diploma sometimes becomes a sticker on a piece of paper. And there's nothing behind it that supports the students and supports the teachers. And we have such rich, incredible networks in the state of Maryland. And it feels like a bit of a disservice to our teachers and our students to just, put a seal on a piece of paper, but not have the supports that they really need to make it, as Ann said, to give fidelity to a program like this. So, we'd love to stay engaged in this conversation with you all about that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Meg.
All right, and we're only 16 minutes over.
That's a
Thank you,
record.
everybody, for your patience and for staying.
All right, we'll see y'all next month then.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.